Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to our Finance Friday series, another installment this Friday on the Energy Efficiency Future Grant Program. My name is Rimjam Agrawal, and I am the Program Manager for the Building Energy Hub at Illinois Green Alliance. This webinar series is a project of the Building Energy Hub with the aim to demystify financial tools that building professionals can use to fund decarbonization and energy efficiency projects. Today, we're joined by Aaron McAvoy from the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity to talk about the Energy Efficiency Future Grant Program. But before we dive into that content, I just want to talk a little bit about the Hub in case you're not familiar with us. And even if you're coming back for another webinar, just talking a little bit about who we are and what we do. The Building Energy Hub is a project of Illinois Green Alliance, and we're supported by a network of partners, and we're working with generous support from ComEd and Builders Initiative. The Hub is Illinois' trusted resource center for building professionals seeking practical solutions to improve building performance. We created the Hub and its programs to serve commercial and multifamily building owners, developers, operators, property managers, contractors, and municipal and community partners in planning, financing, and implementing building retrofits across Illinois. Please visit our website to explore more resources catered to specific audiences that meet different needs. And if you see something that, if you have something that you would find useful, please reach out to us and give us your feedback. One of the things that we do is make it more accessible for people to understand what financial resources are out there for funding and financing energy efficiency projects, which is why today we're bringing in Aaron from DCEO to talk more about this program. Couple of housekeeping notes before we dive into the webinar content. This session will be recorded and posted on YouTube, which will be shared within a follow-up email in case you want to revisit anything that Aaron said. The slide deck will also be made available in that follow-up email. Please remain muted throughout the session and add any questions in the Q&A. We will be taking questions at the end of the presentation. And with that, Aaron, please take it away.
Great. Thank you so much, Jim. And also thank you very much to the Illinois Green Alliance and the Building Hub for having me today. I am going to turn off my camera so I can focus on the presentation itself. But I just wanted to let everyone know, thank you very much for this invite, and off we go. Okay, next. Okay, so overview and objectives for this presentation. And a lot of it I'm going to go through fairly quickly, but so you can go back and look at it at your leisure. Because this is Finance Friday, I want to talk more about the Equitable Energy Futures Grant, and then how to what that can do for you all as builders, developers, architects, people like that. So I'm going to talk about CEJA, the CEJA ecosystem, the DCO CEJA programs, and then kind of just keep working our way down to my Office of Energy and Business Utility, our programs, specifically the Equitable Energy Futures, and then the process itself at DCO, and then also talk a little bit about the capital stacks and suggestions for you all. And then if there's time, Q&A. Next. All right, next. Okay, so real quick, Climate Equitable Jobs Act. If you aren't familiar with CEJA, that's what it stands for. And what the legislation did was comprehensive energy legislation that centers on equity and puts Illinois on track to achieve 100% clean energy by 2050. There are 12 state agencies that were named and that are responsible for implementing CEJA. Next. With CEJA, the legislation itself, and when I talk about the Equitable Energy Futures Grant, it's going to address 3 of 4 economic development goals that the state has set forth. Next. You're going to hear with CEJA about equity focus, and in a nutshell, this is what kind of what it means. there have been some groups of people and communities that in the past have benefited more from clean energy investments, while some others have suffered from the environmental impacts or community disinvestment. And what CEJA is trying to do is make sure that the benefits and investments are distributed equitably. So next. And, CEJA can help in many different ways. And this slide and a couple more slides just break down how CEJA can benefit those particular entities. I'm not going to go through all of it, but it really can help, especially with it. I'm going to talk about the economic development aspect of things. Next. So talked a little bit before was about the community, but then also break it down into organizations itself, about providing building capacity. Also that it's a flexible funding source. And I should probably emphasize that CEJA are state funds. And I will say that in the legislation itself, and I mention this because the state, is having to go through some fiscal issues, that this fund that which CEJA is in cannot be swept. And so when they're looking at ways to help with the budget, this fund is protected from that. The dollars will be there and available for all these different programs. Next. Okay, and then, many of you could be employers, and this is how CEJA could benefit you as an employer. Next. Okay, so now we're going to get into the CEJA ecosystem, and yep, right to it. Not going to go through all this, but I wanted to mention, that inner ring are the 12 different agencies that are mentioned in the CEJA legislation. As it mentions up there, the key up in the upper right, all those light blue programs are CEJA named programs. And then my office are the orange programs. Next. Okay, so here's, like I said, that inner circle, and then if you hit next, it's probably going to start populating, maybe next. Okay, there was supposed to be a little graphic there, but that's okay. We'll just get to the end result. There we go. Oh, yep, stop right there. So with that, you can see, from the earlier slide, all the blue, but then all the green, and I have to put a air of caution. All the green are federal programs, and yes, not all of them probably are or will be funded in the future, but you can at least see in the what has been in the past and possibly could be in the future, all the funding that is available for different aspects. Again, going back to those pie pieces, or if you want to call them wedges, if you remember Trivial Pursuit, that's out there. Again, keep in mind all the blue programs are state, and there are funds available for those particular programs when those grants are up and running and things like that. So next. Okay, so now we keep going down from that 30,000 foot level. So here are the DCO programs that you saw in the blue on the right hand of that chart before. I'm just going to go in general. You have the economic and community development programs that we're going to talk about. That's in the office that I'm in, Office of Energy and Business Utility. Then there is the workforce training programs. And you can see the different programs and how much money is available for those when they're available. And then just kind of going down with the clock. So like around, you know, 6 o'clock or so, contractor support programs, and then also future energy job programs. That's in our Office of Entrepreneurship and Innovation Technology. And you can see there, those programs are dealing with contractors, contractor incubators for those that are just starting out, or Primes Accelerator for those contractors that I believe have been in existence for 5 years and trying to scale up their programs. And then also within the Office of Energy and Business Utility, yes, there are some statewide boards and councils, and we are responsible for those. So next. And so you're probably going to want to know, where are all these programs? And so there is a map for that. And Rimjin put in the chat the link, and when you do get the slide deck, this link and the other links that are in there should be live, so you'll be able to save you some time there. But you can see here, workforce and contractor development programs are in that blue, and then economic, so programs that I'm going to be talking about, community development, are in red. And this is an old map. We were constantly adding new programs to it and things like that. But I just wanted to show this to you, and we can say next. Oh, when you click on this real fast, when you click on one of the dots, it will go into a little bit details of, what the program is, who is the grantee, how much money, that kind of thing. Okay. This is just in more detail, the different workforce programs, and you can see there that they have identified, this slide shows the programs and where they have some of their activities, and you can read about the different programs itself. Next. Same thing, contractor incubator, where they're located. This slide will be updated where it says applications are under review. More of those will be moved up to have been identified and will be in service. So next. Same thing with Primes Accelerator. They should be making their final decisions on all the applications that are under review. You can see they're going to have 3 for the North region, Central region, and Southern region. Next. Just a little bit more details, $74 million total for the 4 economic programs. Excuse me, or actually the 3 economic programs that are listed. And I say 3 because the coldest solar program is, I guess you call it a set aside for NRG and Vistra. They have 5 coal plants that are being decommissioned and being transitioned to battery storage, as well as some solar array, solar farm aspects will be on those properties. But that's already been set aside to those 5 locations. So next. One of the programs that I'm not going to talk about, but is a sister program to the energy or the Equitable Energy Futures Grant, is a community solar sovereignty. And quickly, you can tell from the title of the grant itself what it's about. It's community solar, and there's more details that you can look at here or online about defining that a little bit more. And what it's all about. But keep in mind, when I get ready to talk about the Equitable Energy Futures Grant, just like with the Community Solar Sovereignty, this is pre-construction and pre-development dollars. And that'll make a little bit more sense when I get into that presentation, that part of the presentation, in a minute or so. Next. Or how about now? All right. So finally, Equitable Energy Futures Grants. A lot on this slide. Not going to read it per se, verbatim, but highlights $25.5 million. Again, pre-development, pre-construction. The eligible applicants, and that should be underlined and stressed, would be someone that is defined as an equity eligible contractor by the Illinois Power Agency. Also, it could be contractors that meet the equity building criteria based on the CEJA Ecosystem Utilization Plan, or CEUP. There's always, with the state agency, you always have to have these acronyms for things. So again, planning and feasibility, pre-development, pre-construction. The application is open now, and it is a rolling grant. And how we are defining that is it is open. It does have a deadline of December 31st, 2025. We do have to put a deadline on there, but you know, the funds could be exhausted before that. I will say they're not exhausted before that or right now. So you do have time. But this grant has been out since May 27th. Um, so, but we haven't had enough applications or successful applications to expend all that money. And right now there's plenty of funds to go around for that. And then you can see regarding the eligible activities, and this is not an exhaustive list. You all know, I'm sure, what's part of pre-development, pre-construction. So any of those activities, but again, knowing some of the attendees, that professional services probably jumps out at you quite a bit. But then also keeping in mind with the projects, you're having to deal with the city or the county or whatever, all that permitting, zoning, interconnection costs that might be necessary. We've had grantees that, because this is up to $1 million, that they needed the full million to purchase the land. I won't say it cost a full million to do lease the land, but full $1 million to pay for the entire cost of the land, or at least a good part of the purchase price, and that's what they needed it for. And that is more than okay to do that as part of, as an application. I mean, obviously, there's more that you need to do in the application itself, but I'm just saying that it is an eligible expense. Next. Okay, so kind of go through this. So the funding background and the goal. So obviously, what is this grant in the NOFO looking for? I already talked about that it's one of the two grants, sister program, but it's part of the Jobs and Environmental Justice Grant Fund, emphasized about pre-development. But I will say that it is for renewable energy and energy efficiency projects. Keep that in mind, underline that, because, energy efficiency might be a little bit more, let's say, easier to finance, maybe, especially in today's environment, than some renewable energy. So it's something to keep that in mind. And then also the goal for EEF is to remove barriers to the project in the community itself, and also for business development caused by a lack of capital. So next. So talked about the eligible applicants. The equity eligible contractor, again, has to be certified through the Illinois Power Agency. And you will see a link at the bottom to get you to more of the definitions and get you going to get certified. It also could be an Illinois business, a not-for-profit or cooperative organization that does meet the equity building criteria. And how that determination is made is by completing the C-up. So that is, the C-up is necessary for anyone and everyone that completes an application. But for those that are not an equity, and the reason why is because we want to get the data, get the information for everyone or from everyone. But if you are not an equity eligible contractor, completing the C-up is your only way, only access to being an eligible applicant. Next. So I'm sure you all thought, well, what, you say this equity eligible contractor, what is it? Well, here it is. And I am going to go through this because eligibility obviously is key to any grant. At least 50% of the ownership, partnership, excuse me, proprietorship, board, etc., must meet, and I should emphasize, one of the qualifications below. You don't have to meet all. So a first way of eligibility or qualifications, I should say, is if persons that graduated from or are current or former participants in one of the CEJA workforce development programs, such as the solar training pipeline or and also the multicultural job programs. It could be a person who graduated or currently is enrolled in the foster care system, someone who was formerly incarcerated, and then also a person whose primary residence is in an equity investment eligible community. And next. I accidentally unmuted myself. I apologize. I will say with the equity eligible community, there is a map for that. And what you would do is you would type in an address, and it automatically will share with you if that address is within the an equity eligible community. And those can be broken down into a R3 or EJ, and R3 is for the Cannabis Act that passed a few years ago, and the R3 is, or I'm sorry, the R3 is Cannabis Act, and the EJ community is Equitable Justice communities. So keep that in mind. So real quick, $25.5 million of total funding. The minimum is 250,000, and then 1 million up to 1 million. So keep that in mind. I will say, you always have to have a minimum, but everyone tries to go for and has been successful at more at the maximum. So when it says estimated number of awards up to 40, this is our third round for this grant, and we have probably averaged actually close to more than 25. So just keep that in mind. And then also it's kind of neat, if you want to put it that way. You can apply for multiple projects, but your total award of the amount of funds that you could be awarded is up to $3 million between all your projects. So what we're saying here is you can apply multiple times for different projects that you have going on, or some people even have applied for this multiple grants for the same project, but getting asking for funds for different aspects, different budget line items for the same project. You obviously can't ask for the same things in 2 different grants. Next. Here's, like I talked about, EJ communities, restore, reinvest, renew was what's R3 communities. Again, there's a map for that. Next. Okay, so go through real fast. This is how DCO is defining project phases, because you can apply with the EEF for phase 1 and phase 2, which again is that planning, feasibility, or pre-development. We do not accept any kind of budget line items, or it would be unallowed for phase 3, which is construction, or phase 4, which is implementation. Next. So not an exhaustive list, as you see the note down below. But here's some of the things that you can do. It's a list of a more extensive list of what we put in a visual form earlier. So anyway, next. Okay, so you're probably going, well, how have things gone? As you see here, we've had 2 rounds of Equitable Energy Future grants. Excuse me. Little slow start with the number, and then also successful applicants when it came to that round 1. Round 2, I think we have done much better on getting the word out, explaining ourselves, explaining the grant. And even though, yes, there were still quite a few applications, the percentages overall were higher when it came to those that made it to merit review, but then more importantly, those that were able to score the 75 points, which is the minimum to be a successful applicant. I will say, and you will see in the right-hand pie graph, the reason why individuals or grantees didn't make it through is on that graph. 50% overall, if you're looking at round 2, was because they were scored below the threshold. We had a couple late submissions. Some didn't even make it. They weren't in the pre-qual, or so they were denied. 1 was ineligible, and then again, falling more on the grantee, they had incomplete materials. They didn't have everything submitted. They were eligible and all that, but unfortunately they didn't have everything that they should have with their grant. Okay. Yes. Okay. So gone through the EEF, and this exercise, or these next few slides, is something, again, I'm going to make it towards, obviously, go ahead to the next slide, is talk about trying to build it for the EEF, a capital stack, and or some other grants through DCO. And hopefully you find some value to it, because it will focus on building a capital stack through all the different programs that you saw earlier on that those charts. So how we fund this grant, and then also the Community Solar Sovereignty Grant, is we're trying to avoid a process where it's reimbursable. We're trying to I won't say it's a capital advance or anything like that, so don't quote me that way, but we're trying to create it where there are milestones and there's deliverables. And so we work to put together a draw schedule that is agreeable by everyone. So this is not a one-way conversation, because every project is different. And so what we try to do is work with you, listen to you, and come up with the how best to get those funds to you as efficiently as possible. So you can kind of walk through that, and we'll go to the next slide. So just real quick, an exhibit here. Let's say it's a $500,000 award. There's 2 milestones, and then it's only a phase 1 project. And then this one's easy in the sense of, 50% is as soon as you sign the grant agreement, then you have, you can see in those blue dots in that critical decision point, CDB is, in this particular case, hey, I'm actually identify and hire that architect. And by doing that, by providing the document that, probably the contract with the architect, then you would get $250,000 for milestone number 2. And then you can see what needs to be done, the activities. And then so the architect and others, that critical decision point, that final project report is presented. And by you presenting that, then that's when then you would close out the report. So anyway, so you can kind of see kind of the example of how we kind of set things up. Next. So as part of building your capital stack, you can see here, you're the lead applicant, and then all the different possibilities that are out there in building a capital stack. You have the funding, other government funding, you have private equity, tax credits. We know how that's being affected right now, incentives, and then loan programs. And then let's see how that would work out. Next slide. I know, busy slide. So you can kind of walk through, and you can do this yourself in the sense of your project scenario, nonprofit, trying to do a near net zero retrofit. Where the location is, it's going to be a mixed use commercial residential with both market rate and low income tenants. And then with that, you can see if you're going to do some efficiency aspects of things. There are the different, you'll see the acronyms at the top: Illinois Finance Authority, Illinois Power Agency, DCO, the Housing, Illinois Commerce Commission, federal government, and then even local. So quickly, you can kind of see with the efficiency, there's different programs that the IFA has. And then you also will see IPA has some programs. And then just going, left to right, you can kind of see all the different programs. If you want to do something in solar, you can see again those opportunities available at IFA, IPA, DCO, and then again back to the left, business and development. There's some opportunities there at the IFA, IPA, so forth and so on. So that's really quickly, but how you would look and try to build your capital stack as you're trying to come up with a way to fund your project. Next. Yeah, perfect. So with that, you can kind of see, and these are all real links. This is just in a nutshell and not comprehensive, but another visual of what you saw earlier with all those various links and entities and programs. This is just another way to show it on the different programs. Again, opportunities that are available to you, and helps when you're building your capital stack. Next. So the grant process, and I want to get to questions. So keep in mind that this takes time to get through the grant process. It's looking at between 7 and 10 months. And the different steps that are necessary within DCEO. It goes to legal, it goes to grants management, it goes to accountability, it goes to finance. And then finally, and I need to probably change that color. Yellow is hard to read. But the final one, it goes to the comptroller's office. DCO, it does not cut you the check or deposit in your bank account. It goes to the comptroller. So keep that in mind. Next. So my call to action to you is what are you going to do in the next 30 days? I say advance your career, let's say advance your project more would be probably better. Or at least if you have a project in mind, feel free, be happy to talk. There's the general email that you should send it to. Then you also can send it to me. I would send any kind of email at this time to both, just to make sure in case I'm busy or out running around or something. It will get addressed much sooner if you go to the CEO CJA. Yeah, keep that in mind. Been happy to talk further about that. But in the meantime, happy to talk right now because next is going to be questions after I pass it back to Rimjin.
Thank you, Aaron, for that very detailed and comprehensive presentation, for taking us through all of those different components, and also helpful to know just the typical timeline of the grant process. I don't see any open questions at the moment. So if anyone wants to ask Aaron any questions, please put any questions in the chat or in the Q&A. All right, since we don't have any questions as of now, I will just quickly go through how you can engage with the Hub. You can check out our updated resources. You can feature any projects that you have. Please sign up for our newsletter, follow us on LinkedIn, and we have a calendar of upcoming events, which I'll put in the chat. Before we wrap up, there's a question in the chat. Could two different grant recipients merge together?
Great question, Jasmine. I'm going to define merge together in this way, and hopefully it answers your question. If not, obviously follow up or take yourself off mute or something. But there are definitely opportunities, and we have seen where two, I'll say different entities have submitted a grant themselves individually, but for the same project. And each grantee takes let's say a different piece, or is trying to fund different aspects, different activities for the same grant. So does that answer your question? Thumbs up, thumbs down, yes, no?
There's another question in the chat, Aaron, about community investment vehicles and how that would work.
I am not sure about that, Cassandra, but I am taking notes and I will get back to you and get back to the group all together on that. I'm not a finance expert per se, but I would like to learn a little bit more about that and learn how that works as well.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Thanks again, Aaron, for that wonderful presentation. This recording and deck will be shared with you all, as mentioned before. Thank you all for joining us on this Friday afternoon, and hope you all have a great weekend. Bye.